You're listening to the Global Travel Channel podcast show, a podcast that shares travel experiences from across the world. Your host for the show is Mark Philpott, ex-global corporate executive, philanthropist, publisher, filmmaker, sportsman, and serial traveler. Mark sits down with guests from across the world and talks about their up-close and personal travel experiences. And we get to understand how travel changes people's lives. Here's your host, Mark Philpott.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Global Travel Channel. Yes, it's Mark Philpott speaking and I'm excited to be here. We've got another great show lined up for you today. Hope you've been checking out our wellness show with Natalie and Jessica. They're going fantastically well and giving lots of help and advice on your well-being and health during these changing global times. And there's been plenty of other inspirational travel stories on the show lately. If you haven't checked them out, head over to globaltravelchannel.com where you'll find over 150 odd episodes of people who are doing amazing and have done amazing travel journeys around the world. We don't just talk about travel destinations on the show, we get up close and personal with our guests and find out how travel changed their lives. Now today we're going to be doing another exciting episode in our food series. Yes, I'm going to be joined shortly again by Mr. Dion Taylor, our resident chef for the season. And Dion's got a bit of a surprise up his sleeve today for us as far as recipe goes. So if you're ready to get into the kitchen and cook up a storm, he's told me that this one's really easy to prepare. So there you go, I'll give you a little bit of a tip. It's not too much to get this dish knocked up and ready to go. So let's go over and meet Dion right now and get stuck into this episode. So folks, it's a very warm welcome back to the Global Travel Channel Food Series to Mr. Dion Taylor. Dion, welcome back.
Thanks for having me again, Mark, and for our listeners.
And I want to start off by singing happy birthday, mate, because everybody listening today, it's Dion's birthday, and he's been out and done a little bit of shopping and got him. What did you get yourself, Dion?
Oh, we had a retail therapy moment with the family.
Using your credit card?
It was actually my wife's, but it's the same damage bill.
Probably made you feel better anyway, eh?
It was great. I haven't had a shopping experience with three women before at the same time. My two daughters, my lovely wife, and we end up with, there was socks, there was shirts, new jeans, a suit.
Oh, wow.
Brother, I am sharp.
You're going to be the best dressed bloke in Bundaberg.
Seriously, look out, ladies. I'm dressing to impress.
Well, listen, a couple of things. First of all, happy birthday from me and all the listeners around the world. I'm sure everybody's wishing you happy birthday now. And thank you very much for taking the time out to do a show with me today on your birthday.
Well, these are the things I love doing, so it's well worth being available.
Brilliant. Now, before we go any further, I've got to extend an apology to you and to our listeners from our last episode, because I was apparently, and I didn't even know I was doing it, saying all the way through the episode that it was our third episode we'd done together, but it was only our second. Did you know that?
Oh, there you go. Well, definitely second of our food. That could have been maybe our crossover.
Yeah, that's where I got stumped. And so it proves that people are listening, because I had 4 people write to me and say, hey, did I miss out on a food episode? Where was it?
Well, so, I think this one, Mark, is going to make up for the one we missed.
Yeah, exactly right. So there we go, everybody who's listening. And my apologies. We're up to our third one today on the food series. But if you hadn't been listening, Dion has been on the show before talking about his travel experiences. So you've got to catch up on that. Go back and listen to that one. So let's get into today's birthday treat, we'll call it now, Dion, because you've got something that... Could it masquerade as a birthday meal, this one?
This would be a beautiful dish, and like many people that I know, birthdays are never just one day or never just one meal. This was our pre-birthday dinner.
Oh, pre-birthday dinner. Okay, fantastic. Now, if you've been listening to the show previously, you'll know that we've been choosing countries around the world to send listeners to send recipes in. We were a bit cheeky this month because we decided that we wanted to do something with a little bit more of an Australian fare to it. So we've done that, and Dion's going to tell us now the name of the dish that we've come up with for today.
Well, Mark, I believe Australia is all about fusion. And so I'm going to cross into a few different cultures, but I'm going to run with chili prawns with lime and quinoa.
Oh, there we go. Sounds delicious, and it also sounds very healthy as well, which is something we're focusing on the show, isn't it?
It's a lovely, clean dish.
Right.
This actual dish itself served 4 comfortably, but you could certainly put it in the middle of a table and have it as an awesome side dish for other meals.
Brilliant. Now, if you're listening in and you want to see today's dish and you want the recipe, of course, it'll all be put in the show notes, so you won't have to hold off too much longer to get all those. And Dion's going to walk us through all the steps now to prepare this wonderful dish. Now, first of all, what made you choose this particular dish, Dion?
It was for me, it's all about walking to the supermarket or your local food supplier and looking at what's in season. So right now we have a great selection of seafood, but I love prawns. It's not something that I eat every week, but it's a nice, easy dish to flavour. But prawns themselves, they're big, they're juicy, they have a quick cooking time as well. Because in our house, we pretty much have a golden rule. If we're not eating in 30 minutes, we're not.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
Nice and quick. We've got 2 young, hungry kids and 2 young, hungry adults.
Do you do the cooking at home most nights?
Oh, I'd be cheeky to say yes, because my wife will listen to this and I'll get a belting. No, my lovely wife does probably 9/10 of the cooking in our house. She's an amazing cook.
Right, fantastic. So you get some time off to put your feet up and relax, do you?
And I did last night. I was spoilt. Even though I made the main dish, the kids then plated it up, and we have a bit of a family moment, and everyone sort of jumped in and did elements. It was nice.
So are your kids going to grow up to be foodies like you? Do you think that's going to be something that's a bit of following the footsteps of Dad?
You know, it's funny. One of my daughters, Riley, she loves being in the kitchen. She says, Dad, I want to be a chef. I want to be a hairdresser. I want to be a professional football player. So she likes cooking. And my other daughter, Addison, the younger one, she's very, very particular. She's all about things can't touch, the dressings have got to be right, can't be too sweet, can't be too sour. She's very particular. She'd actually probably be a really good chef in a very high-end restaurant.
Where does she get that from, Mum or Dad?
I don't know. I'm not fussy at all. Got to be a little bit cheeky.
Very good. Now back to the dish. With the prawns, there's a whole variety of different prawns. What prawns are we using for this dish?
We actually used Endeavour prawns. So Endeavour prawns, for me, they're a beautiful sweet fish, sweet flesh, I should say. They're also not too big. When I say not too big, things like tiger prawns, king prawns, they can get really thick in diameter, and I find they just get a little bit too meaty, particularly for this dish, where we had a bit of a stew sort of connection with the dish. Anything that's overcooked, that's thick, ends up too fibrous and a bit chewy. So the Endeavours are perfect for this, or you could also use maybe some green, let me have a little think, depending on where you are in the world, just a nice medium to large green prawn.
Okay. Now the Endeavour prawns, are they the ones we used in the aguachili?
Yes, they're a real signature for the Bundaberg region. We get them most of the year, and they're a great, consistent product.
So do you have a process up there where you basically go down to where the trawlers are coming in to get your supplies, or do you get them from a market or something? So
yeah, we're a little bit fortunate here. So we have a number of key seafood suppliers where they have their own boats, and so not that you can buy direct as the boat is coming in, but certainly they're fresh that day or certainly the following day. Yeah, so we can walk in. Some of the bigger ones, particularly, they've got big ice wells, or there's one of them actually has got a full walk-in fridge area, and you can see all the fresh prawns, all the fresh scallops, fish, everything. It's all laid out for you in its own little sections. It's great.
Wow, brilliant stuff. So why don't we run through the ingredients that everyone's going to need today and the quantity of each?
Brilliant. So there's a few ingredients to this dish, so certainly get a pen and paper or look out for that recipe down the track, because it sounds like a lot, but many of these ingredients you will already have at home. So we'll start with our prawns. So just recapping, this dish is designed to serve 4. So we had 2 adults, 2 children, but it would have very comfortably served 4 adults. So we have 500 grams of green prawns, which is uncooked, 1 punnet of cherry tomatoes, 4 baby capsicums. If you can't get the baby capsicums, it's just because they're a little bit sweeter. So just use 1 large, say red or green capsicum, whichever you prefer.
What's the difference between a baby capsicum and a big one in terms of, is there any fundamental difference in taste or anything?
I find personally the little ones, they're sweeter and they're more table ready. They're not quite as juicy, but they're just a really nice form. You'll generally find the skin itself is not as thick as the big baby adults either.
Yeah, right. Okay, good. Rightio.
We're also going to use 200 grams of fresh butter beans. So these are the beans you can buy, I guess, in the supermarkets, and they're yellow in colour. At the moment for us, they're in season here in the Bundaberg region, so they're divine.
Beautiful. Okay.
We're going to get 1 small bunch of parsley, 2 cloves of garlic, 2 bird's eye chilies, 1 lime. We're also going to reach for, in the pantry, 1 approximately 400 gram tin of diced tomatoes or crushed tomatoes, whichever you have. We'll be looking for some olive oil, some salt and pepper, and 2 cups of quinoa. Now, quinoa, for those that haven't used it before, is spelt Quinoa, and that's an ancient grain. It's been trending now for about 5-10 years, but we find it personally, it's great. It's gluten-free, it's light, so after you've had a fairly substantial meal of quinoa, you don't feel heavy or bogged down. So it's a lovely rice sort of replacement, just in something that if you want to be health conscious, it's another option.
Now I want to ask you about olive oil, because I've had people ask me in regards to oil in particular about using different types of oil to cook with, such as avocado oil or coconut oil. What's your take on all of this?
Oh, there's some exciting oils in the market. We use macadamia oil quite a lot because we're also in a macadamia region. So macadamia oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, they're very similar products in nature. They generally have a fairly low flash point, which means that you can't heat them excessively or you're going to get a lot of smoke, and generally you'll start to change the flavor consistencies as well.
Right, okay. Good advice. So
if you're going to be doing frying, you wouldn't use any of those oils. You'd be using a cottonseed or something like that.
Okay, good. Thanks for clarifying that.
That's okay.
Okay, so we've got prawns, cherry tomatoes, baby capsicums, butter beans, parsley, garlic, chili, lime, diced tomatoes, olive oil, salt and pepper, and quinoa.
Correct.
Okay.
And maybe a nice glass of Savvy Bee just on the side. You just never know. Sometimes you need it in the dish. Sometimes you need it to open up the senses.
I thought you were going to say to drink it while you're cooking it.
Well, you know, sometimes they fall into a glass and you have to drink it.
Your taste test, they call that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Culinary pairing.
Okay, away we go.
Oh, one thing I did forget, beg your pardon. We need 1 brown onion.
1 brown onion, okay.
So depending on your kitchen, I guess one of the things I'm always really mindful is not everyone has gas, not everyone has electric. So I guess when I'm sharing the different cooking techniques, if you don't have one of those appliances, just substitute it for what you feel is the closest alternative.
Yep, okay.
So I personally, for this dish, used a large electric fry pan, primarily because with this dish, you want to have, and you'll hear when we start layering things, you want a nice, big, open, flat surface, but with a lid. So if you have something that looks like that in your pantry or your cupboard, a big open base, but something with a lid, because that lid will be very important.
So if they don't have something like that, what's the backup thing they could use that would work the best?
If you've got the big fry pan but no lid, it's a matter of we could use some alfoil. You could put a chopping board over the top of it, something that's not going to melt, and something that you can use just to hold some steam in.
Yeah, good advice on that. I just refer that because, like life on a sailboat, sometimes you've got to go to plan B and find a solution. So
and C and D.
And C and D, yeah, exactly right. Okay.
And this is one of those dishes. If you don't have capsicum, substitute it with something else. If you don't have parsley, but you prefer coriander, substitute it. It's not a hard and fast dish. For me personally, it's the local flavors, the fresh vibrancy of the herbs, and that after squeeze of lemon or lime, whatever you have available.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, what's up next?
All right, let's get this pan hot. I want to start hearing some sizzle. I want to see some onion and some garlic and some fun things happening. So we'll start the process. We've got our electric fry pan on in this situation. We're sitting at about a moderate heat. So on an electric fry pan, about 6 or 7 on the dial, and we wanted to get it hot. The golden rule with any form of cooking, don't put your cold ingredients into a cold pan and expect magic to happen, because it doesn't work. You've got to have a hot pan with ingredients that hit the sizzle straight from the start. It helps to seal in the flavor, and you want that smell. You want to hear the sizzle, because I think it's part of the sensory experience of cooking dinner. Once you've got the emotion side of cooking, your guests can taste some of those invisible things. The fact that you had fun as well while you were making it.
So if I put 2 dishes in front of you and one was cooked with a pan that wasn't heated to start off with and the other was, would you be able to tell the difference in the taste?
Ooh, depending on what dish it is.
Okay.
The variation that does get, particularly with onions, if you don't have that sizzle with the onion, you change the sugar component of the onion. So the sugars don't caramelize, and a lot of the water comes out of the onion too soon. So the dish it's wetter, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the chef in me coming out. A little bit of old habits die hard.
No, that's good. It's good. It's good to hear these things, and it's also good to hear where they came from, where they originated. Look, I only found out this week that honey actually changes its properties depending on the heat in which you use it. Did you know that?
And the crystallization that can occur. There's some fascinating science behind food. So maybe as we go, Mark, if I think of some of these crap facts, I'll share them.
Yeah, please do. They're interesting.
Good stuff.
I'm excited to hear more of them anyway, so I'm sure other people are.
Oh,
okay,
good.
let's go.
So we've got our onion in the pan. It's cooking now. We're going to add our diced, chopped garlic. Doesn't have to be fine. You don't have to be a precision cutter. Just a nice, as fine as possible, chopped garlic. That's in the pan as well with the onion. We're going to give this a really good cook. Now, the one thing with this dish, no matter what oil you're using, don't be mean with the oil. You want the onions generously coated in oil. You want to see the garlic in there mixing all through as well, because it also forms part of our sauce. And that's why we're using an olive oil or a macadamia, or even avocado would be fine. You don't want a really low budget oil, because that's the first flavor that's going to be on your tongue, is a cheap oil. That's not what we're going for. So while everything is in there cooking, we're going to give it a little bit more time, cook that out, and then we're going to add our cherry tomatoes. Now, all I've done with these, I just chop them in half. So if they're really, really big ones, maybe quarters, but again, it's rustic. They're now in with your onions and garlic, cooking them out. Just turn your heat down a little bit to about a low to moderate, about 4 on your pan. We're going to give them a little bit of time cooking, and while they're cooking, the lid is off during this part. And what we're going to do, those little baby capsicums. Now, all I did with these, physically cut them into quarters, lengthwise. So you'll find they're probably going to be about, oh goodness, maybe 6 or 7 centimeters. They're not big. Cut them into quarters, take off the top where the stalk is, just remove that bit there and chop the seeds out. They then go in with the tomato mix as well. So we're going to cook them down a little bit, probably 4 or 5 minutes with the rest of the sauce. So a few more things to add in there as well. We've got our chopped chilies now. Now some people really like chili, so I get that. Now we used 2 bird's eye chilies for this dish, and that gave it a very soft, mild chili flavour. If you want to be a little bit adventurous, you could probably change those bird's eyes to something like a habanero or a jalapeno and get a little bit more heat in there, or simply just add more bird's eye chilies. Go from 2 to probably 4 and you'll get your lips tingling nicely. So we still have one key ingredient left to go into this dish. We've got our fresh butter beans. Now, looking into your fry pan, your sauce, so you've got our onions, garlic, cherry tomatoes. They've cooked out a little bit. We've now got our baby capsicums in there, and we're going to add our open tin of diced tomatoes or crushed tomatoes and just let them cook out. It's a little bit like a Italian sort of pasta sauce. So if you've got that visual in your mind, you've got something that's going to create a nice wet sort of table sauce. We've got a bit of texture and crunch in there with our vegetables. And the key then is going to be the vibrancy of that fresh parsley and the fresh butter beans. They're going to be one of our last things that we add. Okay guys, so we've now got our tomato base cooking along nicely. So we have all of our key ingredients in there. Our onion, garlic, cherry tomatoes, our capsicums are in there. We've got our crushed tomatoes in there, and everything's cooking along nicely. What we're going to work on now is our prawns. So the prawns are the hero of this dish. So when you're choosing your prawn, personally for this dish, we use the local Endeavour prawns. I find personally, just don't find a prawn that's too thick. Like, this is not a time to use tiger prawns or anything too big and meaty, because you want them to be steamed in this sauce, but quite quickly. So we've got our 500 grams of prawns of choice. First thing we need to do, let's remove the head off all of the prawns. We're going to remove the outer shell of the prawn. It's really important in this dish, guys. Make sure you remove that waistline, that famous poo tube that we all call. Depending on where you get your prawns from in the world, they could be sandy in the back there. They could have a heavy green color based on seaweed. There's so many different variations, but either way, that's not part of this dish. So we're going to cut that out, and you'll have half a kilo nice, clean, fresh prawns with their tail on.
Dion,
now, one of the benefits of leaving the tail on with this dish, it's a dead set cheat's way of knowing that your prawn is cooked through. With the tail on, simmered or cooked in this sauce, once that tail has gone orange in color, you're fairly safe to know that that prawn is cooked all the way through. Okay, so that's another little benefit of leaving that tail on there. Once we have our sauce all cooking, we're going to add our... Yep, gotcha.
Oh, you have? Okay, you didn't hear me before though, right?
No.
Okay, so there's something going on. I don't know what it is, because you're not hearing me when I'm talking for some reason. And yet now you're hearing me fine. I can hear you clearly. Now? Yeah. Okay, I don't know what it is. So I was going to ask you, so we'll just go again. I've got a question for you regarding the prawns. Oh, yes. So I'll just dive in with that, and then I can cut that other stuff out.
Yep.
So Dion, regarding the prawns, you said this dish is to be prepared for 4 people. What would be the minimum amount of prawns? Is 500 grams the minimum amount you'd use in a dish like this for 4 people? Yeah, definitely.
If you've got 4 big hungry adults, maybe go for the kilo or 2 pounds. I just feel personally 500 grams is enough, because the overall dish volume there's an amount of food to eat. By the time you have your quinoa, there's a lot of sauce. The prawns are like the garnish, but there's enough of it.
Yeah, okay. Understood. Okay, carry on.
Good stuff. So we're going to add our prawns in. So we've put our prawns, rather than just tip the bowl straight into the sauce mix, place them out a little bit because we want to steam them through the sauce. So it's a little bit like a paella. You're going to have your prawns over the sauce mix, looking like a garnish. We're then going to add our lid on top of the dish, and we're going to cook it out for about 4 or 5 minutes. And what you'll see will happen is the prawns will start to change their color. The underside, because it's sitting in the hot sauce, will be cooking through, and they'll go that white color. The top side will have that translucent color. So what we're going to do at the end of that 4 minutes, simply turn the prawns over in the sauce, put the lid back on, give it another 3 or 4 minutes, and you'll probably find within that time they should be cooked through.
Okay.
Once it comes time now, we should have our cooked prawns, all of our sauces in there and ready. We're going to add our beans, so our butter beans that we bought earlier. Just going to chop them through, add them to the prawn mix, because we want to have a little bit of crunch with them, but we don't want them too soupy or cooked out too much. We're also going to add now our chopped green parsley, or a bunch of parsley. A lot of parsley, people go, oh, that seems like it's too much. It's actually a key part of this dish because it gives you that fresh element. It gives you some amazing color, and it's appealing. It's that vibrancy of the dish. It's clean, it's fresh, and it's appealing to look at. One of the things we do with our...
I was going to say, can you ever have too much parsley?
No, you can never have too much parsley. With this dish itself, we have a lot of family sort of style dishes at home. So when it comes time to plating, for us in our household, we have large platters and we put them out and guests help themselves. It's great because you eat what you need. It's not about overeating or being silly indulgent. You can have your first course, everyone's been eaten, and then you can look back and go, oh, there's still a little bit more, I've got a little bit more room, and then you can work it out yourselves. So,
I'm the guy that always says I've got more room.
A little bit more room, just that little bit more, one more prawn.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to be a little bit cheeky with some of these dishes. They're probably what we would consider not things that we would eat every night. They're like our family night, our midweek ritual for us, because I work a lot of weekends. And so our special meals generally fall Tuesdays and Wednesdays as a general rule.
Yeah, brilliant.
The really easy part of this dish is the plate up. It's a matter of, we've got our cooked quinoa. So we had that on the stove earlier. We set it aside. Now it's a matter of just evenly placing that onto your platter. So 2 cups of quinoa, as you'll see now, it's a big volume of quinoa, but it's a great alternative to rice. And it's a guilt-free version of a rice. You don't need to feel like you're overeating. It's a great source of protein there as well.
Right, okay.
So all our quinoa down. Now we've got that beautiful rich sauce with our prawns in there, that green vibrant pop from our parsley, and that yellowy color from the butter beans. Everything's in there, good to go. So what we're going to do, generously spoon that tomato and prawn sauce mix just down the middle of the quinoa, and you'll see you create like a little bit of a mountain on top of that bed of quinoa. With the limes, now we didn't use them a little earlier in the sauce. I prefer lime juice to be squeezed on last. You get that fresh citrus bursts. It's a little bit like finger limes. You get that little bit of texture, heavy pop, and that nice bit of zing. And it looks nice on the platter. Just gives you a little layer of garnish. Makes you feel like you've made it a bit more special than what it could have been, and a bit more color there as well.
Do you use a lot of lime in your dishes, Dion?
Say again, sorry?
Is lime something you use a lot of in your dishes?
I love lime. I don't know what it is. I think coming from the Northern Territory, limes were never really in abundance unless you lived in Darwin. But in the centre, so Alice Springs, for example, limes were like a treat. It was really quite funny. And now that I live in a place where limes are quite abundant, we use them wherever we can. We use them in our morning juices. We use them on a lot of our cooking dishes because I like that crisp, clean finish that it leaves you. It's great.
Yeah, I love them as well, and that's the reason I ask you, because I think they just about go with anything, don't they, really?
Oh, magic. Again, they were one of the heroes in that prawn aguachile.
Yep.
Now they're a hero again with my prawns today. Had to
Brilliant.
use them again.
Okay, good. What do we do next?
Now it's pretty much time for some enjoyment. So we've got everything plated. We've got it in the middle of our table here, and it's time for everyone to dig in. One of the key of this dish, I believe, it's the family style. It's everyone sitting down, same time, enjoying the meal visually, but then just getting those oohs and ahs as we go through it, because it's funny. One of my daughters enjoyed the prawns and the whole dish. The other one just wanted to eat the quinoa. So you can sort of tick a few boxes at the same time.
That's a handy thing to have, though, if you're having this with children, isn't it? You know, they can pick out what they like from it, basically.
It's the great thing with family-style dining. Anyone can eat the lot, or they can be a little bit more particular and work their way through it as they need to.
Yeah, absolutely. Dion, is there anything that you would say that you need to be really mindful of before you make this dish in terms of getting some of these ingredients right? Is there anything that stands out? You say, look, you can go horribly wrong if you do this wrong in this dish?
I don't think so, Mark, to be fair. I'm probably with all the recipes that I come up with myself, I like to have all of my vegetables chopped and sliced and diced and either sitting on the chopping board or sitting in individual bowls, because then it's just a matter of layering. So you've got your pan on, first lot of vegetables go in, you keep adding, you add your wet sauce, you add some more fresh ingredients in. We're going to cook our prawns in there, turn them over, lids on, and then we're serving. So there's a lot of ingredients, there's a little bit of chopping, but as long as you've got it all prepared, it's just that layering effect and building a really good dish.
So from start to tabling up, how long does this dish take us to get ready?
Depending on your prawn peeling skills, probably about half an hour.
Half an hour, right. Okay, brilliant. So it's something you can come home from work and put together pretty good and have a really lovely, fresh, clean meal. Huh?
Yeah, and if you really wanted to, I think there's elements of this dish, without being cheeky, you could use them as a fridge rotation. Like you could, instead of using capsicum, there'd be no reason why you couldn't use broccoli or, I don't know, other things. Like if you've got Brussels sprouts floating around. To me, I guess one of the things we always look at in our fridge is how to reduce waste. Yeah. We don't want any family having to think that, oh, we can't do that dish because we don't have capsicums. Substitute it for something else.
Yeah,
use
that's
carrots.
That's a great piece of advice.
Broccoli, zucchini. It's about having a balanced dish and having some fun with the colour and the visuals of any dish.
I was going to say that. I saw the photos and video you prepared yesterday for this dish. It's extremely colourful, and all the listeners are going to be able to see that when I post it. But it's a cracker. The prawns with chili, lime and quinoa, folks. We're going to call that the Australian fusion dish today, aren't we, Dion?
I think so. It's to me, it feels like I've got a bit of Italian heritage which hasn't been shared with me. I feel like I'm a soul brother with Mexico with a bit of chili and lime.
Yeah.
And then we're just throwing a few extra fresh herbs in there just to make it fusion.
Brilliant. Well, there you go, folks. That's today's dish, and Dion and I would love to get your feedback if you try these dishes, and let us know how you went with them, and what your experience was both preparing them and also enjoying them to eat. Now, we're going to throw it back out to the audience again for next month's dish, so we want to get a recipe from somewhere in the world. It doesn't matter where it is. Dion's going to give it his best go at cooking it up, which he's an expert at. So send us in your recipes, get on social media, send us your recipes that you'd like us to prepare on the show, and Dion will make it happen. Dion, been great to have you with us on your birthday. Thank you very much for giving up your time today, and have a wonderful evening ahead.
Fun as always. And tonight, I'm getting dinner cooked for me by my lovely family.
Well,
so
there you go.
Secrets are coming.
Sit back and relax, and on the next show you can tell us what you had for your birthday dinner.
Beautiful. I'll take some photos as well, maybe share them directly so we can have a bit of a judge.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, many happy returns, and thanks again, and we'll see you all again next month.
Good stuff. Looking forward to it.
So there we go, folks. That was the birthday boy, Dion Taylor, coming to us today live from Bundaberg and talking to us about a lovely prawn dish. So give it a go, try it out, and let us know how you go. We really want to know how these dishes are working out in your place. Send us some photos, put them on our social media pages, make a comment, tell us whether it was tasty, what kind of prawns did you use, and if you didn't use all the ingredients that Dion told us about today, what was your substitutions for those? Love to know. And also, if you're listening in and you want to send us your recipe from your country for us to cook up next month, please do so. We're after all international recipes now from countries around the world. So if you're sitting on an old favourite, send it over and we'll get Dion to cook it up for you. Now, don't forget, there's over 150 episodes on the Global Travel Channel for you to check out. People doing amazing travel experiences all over the world, life-changing at that. And I'd love you to go there and check some of them out. Let us know, and if you do like our content, please tell someone about it, maybe a family member, a friend, or even a work colleague, about the Global Travel Channel. And we want to get as many people around the world as we can listening to our podcast show. So there we go, folks. That's it for this particular episode. I hope you're enjoying the food series with Dion. He's a great guy and he's cooking up a storm for us, and he's very passionate about his food. So until we see you next time here on the Global Travel Channel, I want to wish you all a very safe and happy week ahead, and I'll be back soon with another episode very shortly. Until then, my name's Mark Philpott. Stay well and stay safe.